the Obsidian Initiative, a masterclass in evidence synthesis. Maya stood in the investigation war room at Obsidian Financial, looking at the information spread across the glass wall in front of her. This was the most complex investigation she had ever handled. The allegations involved multiple layers of misconduct, including possible corporate espionage and a sophisticated financial scheme involving unauthorized transactions. The amount of information was overwhelming. There were thousands of emails, access control records, vendor invoices, financial documents, and conflicting witness statements. At first glance, it looked like a mountain of disconnected information. But Maya understood something important. A successful investigation is not about collecting more and more information. It is about turning information into understanding. The investigator's job is to transform scattered evidence into a logical story that explains what happened. This is the purpose of evidence synthesis. Maya knew she needed to move beyond simply being a collector of information. She needed to become an analyst who could identify patterns, connect evidence, and build a defensible chain of reasoning. She started with the first step, building a master timeline. Maya created a sequence of events, or SOE, timeline. But she did not simply create a list of dates and activities. She organized events in chronological order to understand how the situation developed over time. She mapped employee actions, system activity, financial transactions, and communications together. As she reviewed the information, Maya noticed something interesting. The CFO's access record showed several occasions where he entered the server room outside normal working hours. At the same time, unusual activity appeared in the payroll system. The timeline revealed something that individual records had not shown. There were several short periods where the CFO's badge indicated he was accessing the server area, but there was little or no corresponding computer activity. These gaps became important investigative questions. What happened during those periods? Was there another explanation? Or did these missing pieces reveal something that had not yet been discovered? A good timeline does more than show what happened. It also helps investigators identify what does not make sense. After building the timeline, Maya moved to the next stage, creating a link chart. This investigation involved many different people and organizations. There were multiple vendors, internal employees, and external parties connected to the transactions. Looking at separate spreadsheets made the relationships difficult to understand. So Maya created a visual link chart. She treated people, companies, and systems as nodes. The relationships between them became the connections or edges. Once the information was visualized, hidden relationships began to appear. Maya discovered that 3 different vendor companies were registered at the same address. The address was connected to a family member of one of the managers involved in the approval process. The information had always existed, but the connection was difficult to see when everything was viewed separately. The link chart helped transform a complicated collection of facts into a clear picture of relationships and influence. Next, Maya developed an evidence matrix. She needed a structured way to evaluate how the evidence supported each allegation and each person involved. She created a matrix that compared the alleged misconduct against the available evidence. On one side, she listed the specific issues, such as unauthorized access, improper payments, and policy violations. On the other side, she listed the individuals involved. Then she evaluated the strength of the evidence supporting each connection. Some areas were supported by direct evidence, such as system records or admissions. Other areas depended on indirect evidence, such as timing patterns, relationships, or unusual activity. Maya understood that evidence should not simply be counted. 5 weak pieces of evidence do not automatically outweigh 1 strong piece of evidence. The quality and reliability of evidence matter more than the quantity. The evidence matrix helped ensure that her final conclusions were consistent, balanced, and defensible. Finally, Maya focused on the most important task, building the logical evidence chain. An investigation conclusion should never appear like a personal opinion. It should show the reasoning path from evidence to finding. Maya organized her findings into clear chronological sections. Each fact built on the previous fact. Each conclusion was connected to supporting evidence. For example, instead of simply writing, "The CFO bypassed internal controls," she explained. "The access records show that the CFO entered the server room outside authorized hours. The IT audit logs confirm access activity during this period. The related system changes were made using credentials assigned to the CFO, see Exhibit G. This approach allowed another person to follow the same reasoning path and understand why the conclusion was reached. By the end of the analysis, Maya had transformed a confusing collection of emails, records, and statements into a structured evidence story. The evidence demonstrated that the misconduct was more likely than not to have occurred, meeting the balance of probabilities standard. For investigators, this is the purpose of evidence synthesis. It is the process of moving from information overload to analytical clarity. When synthesizing evidence, remember 4 important principles. First, look for the gaps. Do not only focus on what happened. Look for missing time, missing records, unexplained actions, or differences between someone's explanation and objective evidence. Second, map the relationships. When creating link charts, ask, who is connected to whom? Where does influence exist? Are there hidden relationships that are not visible on the official organizational chart? Third, weight evidence rather than simply counting it. Do not judge a case by the number of witnesses or documents. Evaluate the strength, reliability, and relevance of each piece of evidence. A verified digital record or direct admission may carry far more weight than several unsupported statements. Finally, build the bridge from evidence to conclusion. Your final report should allow an independent reviewer to walk through your reasoning without getting lost. Every important finding should connect clearly to supporting evidence. A professional investigator does not simply collect facts. A professional investigator creates meaning from facts. That is the true skill of evidence synthesis. As an investigator, when we are moving into evidence synthesis, you must transition from a collector of data to a builder of logic. I want you to think about the following as you synthesize your files. First, look for the gaps. When building timelines, don't just focus on what happened. Search for missing time or omissions, where a subject's story deviates from hard digital artifacts. You should map the influence. When creating link charts, ask yourself, who truly holds the power in this network? Use node and edge logic to find hidden relationships between vendors and employees that aren't on the official organizational chart. Again, wait, don't just count. When developing evidence matrices, remember the grains of sand analogy. Do not just count witnesses, evaluate the quality of the evidence. An admission or a hard digital artifact always outweighs a character reference. Lastly, bridge the truth. When identifying logical evidence chains, your goal is to ensure that a third-party reviewer can walk your reasoning path without getting lost. Use factual snippets to link the truth of your conclusion directly to the truth of your supporting exhibits. In conclusion, evidence synthesis is about building timelines, creating link charts, developing evidence matrices, and identifying logical evidence chains.